I hope all of you are doing great and welcome back to another session. Today, again, we're going to talk about nationalism in Europe because we missed out on something in the last class. I'm going to continue from there. We talked about what is nation state, the concept of nation state. Then I gave you the idea of coming of national identity union in France. Then today we're going to talk about, I left you with a question, I left the video with a question. And did you guys give it a thought? Who is the person who was crowned as the Emperor of France in 1804? However, in the Battle of Waterloo, this guy was defeated in 1815. Of course, a lot of comments were there, and he is none other than Napoleon. So let's get started. What is good about this person, and what is something that he didn't do that everybody didn't like about it? So let's continue. And shh, 2 minutes. I'll reveal a secret also. Here you go. So we talked about that, this dude right here. Can you see this person? Yo, man. Yo man, this person right here is the person who took advantage of the political instability in France and gained power in no time. Imagine this person who gained power, who became a military dictator, I would say, not might, you know, might have some agenda in his mind that, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to introduce this thing, I'm going to introduce this thing. So anyway, before we proceed, do you know Napoleon did something that was good and a lot of things that were not so good? So talk about the administrative field. This person, he really improved and worked on the administrative task. He ensured that in France we have reforms in administrative field. There is equality. There is also the transport and communication systems were also improved, and more or less the restrictions on guilds were reduced. Now, if I talk about guild restriction, this is something that is not very, like you guys are not very familiar about this guild thing. Let me tell you what is this guild. I'll make the concept clear. So if guild restrictions were removed now, anyway you'll be able to answer that merchants, peasants, and every person who was into trade probably enjoyed it. But no doubt, keep in mind that this person was wearing a mask on his face. Yes, Napoleon was wearing a mask on his face. On the face of his, on the face of it, everybody thought that he's the person who brought so many changes in the country, and we really need to appreciate him. But to be honest, he destroyed democracy. He was just trying to please people with something that would benefit him in the long run rather than the people of the country. So let's see what is this guild concept. Imagine this is a territory. I'll give you a very simple example. Take this as a territory. Okay. Now, in this territory, we have state 1. This is the first state. This is the second state. Let's talk about this being the second state. And here you have n number of states like this on the periphery. Let's take the states on the periphery. Now, what happens is, I am a merchant right here. I've got my stuff with me, holding my stuff like this, okay? And I want to sell it, and I'm shouting, "Lelo, lelo, 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 lelo." But what happens is, generally what happens when you enter a territory as of now, you are charged with a tax that is known as custom tax. But if you have territories that are so defined and they are not together and they are isolated, they function, in isolation, and it's just, I've drawn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. That's not the main concern. In these defined territories, let's have an insight of this, what is there in these defined territories. There is a king who rules this territory, and he's granted a right to this group of people who are known as guild. They may be the people who are, into manufacturing. These people maybe the people who are craftsmen. And these people, if anybody tries to join their group, they have a restricted movement. Anybody who joins their group is not allowed to freely access the things. For example, if I tell you, can you go and tell me the secret for the recipe of McDonald's or maybe a Subway? These people have something in private. They keep something in private. They don't really reveal the policy. And more or less, they have the monopoly. So similarly, in this defined territory of all the regions here in France, there's going to be a group who's going to be granted rights by the king that, okay, I'm giving you the right, you are free to do trade. You set your own policies, you do whatever you want to, but you have this territory of mine in which you can function. But I can't, promise you that the king in the next area is going to give you the same liberty as I am. So we have different groups for every thing that was offered in the kingdom. And these group of people, they had restricted entry and exit of of a person who joined them. Very secretive in nature, not offering a lot of concession to everybody, just trying to be a monopolitive in that area. So let's say they are manufacturing, they are into furniture, just giving an example, into pottery, they are doing something jewelry, just an example. So me being a merchant would find it really difficult, first of all, to enter the territory, then set my market and sell off something. Because at this time in Europe, a lot of middle class was coming into picture. They were educated. They were making good amount of money by going overseas and doing trade. But they wanted the same weights and measures, transportation and communication, and also guild restrictions to be removed. Now, this person who had no identity of his own, and because of these restrictions in guild restrictions in a territory that I define, do you think this person would be allowed to enter this territory? Pretty much no. They won't allow him to trade. Now, Napoleon came into picture. Dijak, 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 dijak. He said, wait, I'm gonna help you. This person had a big smile with teeth on, and he said, oh, what are you going to do? Napoleon said, first of all, I'm going to remove this guild restriction so that you can do trade as per, a uniform policies there for trade, to trade in the territory. You don't find it really difficult. So all the wealthy middle class, they had good smile. They were so happy. They were enjoying. They were dancing. Array, Napoleon is a masiha to us. See what he's done. He's ensured that there is standard weights and measures. He's introduced decimal system, and he's almost reduced the guilt restrictions. But because of this, the weights and measures, the small of all the places came to be almost at par, and the small scale manufacturers, the businessmen, they were doing great. Listening to their story in different areas, that okay, this person introduced all these concepts, practices in France, and when the businessmen went out of France, and they used to tell his friend that Sharma ji, listen, in France Napoleon has done this. What is the lead name of your leader who has introduced some changes like Napoleon? So Sharma ji, or maybe some other person, whosoever was his friend, used to give it a thought. Arey, nobody's done anything in my area. He said, bulao, bring, call on, bring it home. This is Napoleon. Where is Napoleon? Just give him a call. So everybody used to welcome him. Come. We are welcoming you to our territory. But you guys told me, ma'am, Napoleon was wearing a mask on his face. Initially, everybody thought that he's harbinger of prosperity. He's going to liberate us from this monarchical setup. The peasants are going to set free. The monarchical dues are not going to be there. But when Napoleon, took charge of that area, then he just used to remove his mask and used to ask, listen, I've occupied this territory. For example, let's say, I'm going to put it right here. Let's say Napoleon occupied after France, Napoleon occupied this very territory, like half a section. Now what Napoleon did is, Napoleon said, weights and measures, done. I've standardized the system. Transportation, communication, done. So I have done this for you. What are you guys gonna do for me? He said, now listen. Number one, censorship. Nobody is going to speak anything against me. Just say I am the Lord, I am the best. Second thing, there is going to be a taxation policy because I have introduced so many things in your territory. Now I am entitled that I can collect revenue and tax from you people. And third and very important is forced recruitment or forced conscription into the French forces. Why do you think would he look out for this, forced recruitment into the French armies? So that from France he went off to this area. From getting army support from here, he can conquer the rest of the Europe. So he basically wanted to target the rest of Europe. That is why he introduced you. He went on with this mask, and then when he entered the territory, what he used to do? Three things. Censorship. That means censorship means you are not allowed to speak. They curb your expression of speech and thought. Then taxation. Dude, you are supposed to pay me taxes because you are making good amount of money now, because I've reduced the guild restriction. I've done away with the guild restriction. And third, now support me and get yourself recruited into the army so that we can conquer the rest of Europe. So, on that note, what I want to tell you, what is the secret of this lecture, is that the big suspense is Napoleon introduced three changes that is very, very important, and mostly often this is asked in the exam. That is Civil Code of 1804. When I talk about civil basically means like we guys in India, we are civilians. We the citizens are civilians. So for civilians, for the people of the particular country, he introduced a code, a formula, a policy, a strategy in 1804 that is also known as Napoleonic Code. But it was introduced in France, and like I told you, like merchants transfer the concept, they conveyed it to the people in different regions. Similarly, this concept of BPL, that is Civil Code of 1807, it spread like wildfire. Now what is this BPL? Just listen to me very carefully. B stands for he did away with all the privileges based on birth. That means nobility and clergy are going to serve the country as much as the third state is going to. Everybody is going to pay the same amount of taxes. Like there's going to be no privileges that's going to be based on birth. Second, he established equality before law. So what is L? BL, that means everybody is equal before law. You can't be the president of the country or the chief minister or maybe the royal emperor, and you can't say that you can probably not punish us for a crime. Like everybody is equal before the law. Whatever sin you've committed, you're going to be penalized for the same. And third, he secured, that means he granted right to property. Because in the first class, I told you there was feudal system. And I explained you guys how the feudal system worked. So he also ensured that the right to P stands for property is ensured to all the people. Like whosoever has a property, he is there to secure their right. So let's see if you guys remember what we've covered today. Number one, we started off with the changes that Napoleon introduced in France, that is uniform system of weights and measures, transportation and communication. Then I told you that okay, he also introduced he did away with all the guild restrictions. Then because of he reduced the guild restriction, the merchants coming in France to sell off their goods, they communicated and that idea spread throughout Europe. And then the French army, they were welcome. But when they were welcome, Napoleon was wearing a mask. He didn't reveal his real identity. But the minute he captured that part, he took away his mask. And then he revealed his real face, in which we saw that he used to penalize people with a lot of tax, with a lot of taxation, and also ask them to recruit themselves for the army. So that what? Yes, so that he can conquer the rest of Europe. And last but not the least, we even covered that Napoleon in France initially gave the concept of civil code. And I told you what you understand by civil. We people, the people of a country, they're known as civilians. So he introduced a code that is civil code, usually known as Napoleonic code, in which he introduced three things: BPL. Do you guys really want to know what happened in Italy, Germany, and Britain? Do you guys want to talk about romanticism? So stay tuned, guys. I'm going to be back with another video very soon. Bye bye. Take care.